everyone, this is Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Now as you saw in the pictures, we're going to make an apple for the teacher. Now this apple can be used as a coaster, fits a coffee mug or cup perfectly, or it can be used as an applique. It measures about 4 inches across and with the stem about 4.5 inches long. It would look nice on a book bag, scarf, hat, or anything that you want to put it on, maybe a backpack, or give it to your child's brand new teacher to get the year off started right, or give it at the end of the year to say thank you for putting up with my kiddo. Now this is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make this apple coaster or applique, you can use cotton yarn that's a medium 4, and for our demonstration today I'm going to be using this red that's a variegated. I'll use a little bit of this beige for the stem. I'm going to use this bright green for our leaf, and then I'll use a little bit of white and black for the face. Now also, as you saw in the pictures at the beginning of the video, you don't have to add the little face if you don't want to. It's just a little something we added to make it look a little bit sweet. If you're going to be giving this as an applique, or maybe just to put their coffee cup on to protect their desk surfaces or table, you can make this out of acrylic yarn as well. Just make sure that your yarn, whether it be cotton, cotton blend, or acrylic, is a medium number 4 weight yarn. All of them can be used. As a matter of fact, the black that I'm using is going to be an acrylic because I couldn't find a black in cotton that I liked, and so I thought that little bit of acrylic isn't really going to make a difference. It's up to you though what yarns you want to choose. This one is a variegated. The ones I showed you at the beginning in the pictures were all solids, and so it's up to you how you want to make your apples. The key is to make sure they're all a medium number 4 yarn. We're going to be stitching with our H hook today, which is a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle to weave in ends, and if you decide you want to have your eyes and your mouth, you'll need to embroider those on, and of course attach our leaf and stem. And then of course you'll need your scissors. We're going to begin with our slip knot, and then we're going to chain 4 chains. We're going to stitch 9 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. Our first 3 chains will count as 1 double crochet. We want a total of 10, so I'm going to stitch 9 double crochets in this 4th chain from the hook. Yarn over, go in that chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. So because my chain 3 counted as 1, I have 2 and I need 8 more. We want a total of 10, and we're going to be stitching those in that 4th chain from the hook. Alright, let's see how many I have stitched. Here's my chain 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I need 1 more right in that same chain. I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch. Go in, pull up a loop, then pull that loop through the loop on your hook. And then we're going to chain 3. Now, sometimes when you begin the way that we started, you'll have a little hole. And if you prefer, you can do the magic ring or magic circle to begin with if you're more comfortable doing it that way. I just prefer this method for this pattern. I threaded my tail of yarn on my needle, and I'm just going to go around those first stitches and I'm going to gently pull that in and close up that hole. Then I'll make a few stitches going back. And then I'm going to cut my yarn. There we go. So now I have my 10 double crochets, my chain 3, and my hole is closed, and I'm ready for row number 2. For row 2, our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we're going to stitch a double crochet right in that same stitch as our chain 3. And then we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in each of those double crochets around. And since we started with 10 double crochets on row 1, for row 2 we're going to have 20 double crochets. So we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in each of the double crochets around, and then we'll join to the chain 3 and chain 3. I've stitched those 20 double crochets. I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. And row 3 is pretty much the same as row 2. The only difference is we'll have more stitches. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, so we're going to double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. And then again, we're going to place 2 double crochets in each of the stitches around. And so since row 2 has 20 double crochets, row 3 will have 40 double crochets because we're placing 2 double crochets in each of the double crochets around. So I'm just going to continue stitching 2 double crochets in each of the double crochets, working all the way around for row 3, and then I'll join back to my chain 3 like we did on row 2. I've stitched those 40 double crochets, 2 in each of those stitches. We're going to join to the top of our chain 3 with a slip stitch, and this time we're only going to chain 1. On row 4 we're going to be shaping the shape of our apple. We're going to begin first with the side of our apple. We'll go down the side, we'll do those 3 bumps, we'll come back up and then shape the other side of our apple. We're going to place 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. 1, 2. Then we're going to place 2 half double crochets in the next stitch. Yarn over, go in the next stitch and pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through all 3. And we're going to place a second half double crochet in that same stitch. Now we're going to place 2 double crochets in the next stitch. So yarn over, go in the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over and go through the second 2. And now we'll place a second double crochet in that same stitch. So we have 2 singles, 2 half doubles in one stitch, and 2 doubles in the next stitch. Now we're going to place 2 half double crochets in the next stitch. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 of those loops, and then we'll do that again in that same stitch. Alright, so now we're going to place 1 single crochet in the next 10 stitches. 1, oops, there we go, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So what we've done so far is this is the top of the apple, and this is the shape, and then we've come down around. And this is how it should look at this point. The next thing we're going to do is form those 3 bumps at the bottom. We're going to place 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1 and 2. Then we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then again, we're going to place 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1 and 2. Then we'll stitch 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. And then again we'll place 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1 and 2. So now we have those 3 bumps that are on the bottom of our apple. Now we're going to work up the last side of our apple to make it look like this side. So we're going to place 1 single crochet in the next 10 stitches. 1, there's 5, all right, now here is 10. So we stitched the 10 here like we have over here. All right, we're going to place 2 half double crochets in the next stitch. So yarn over, go in, yarn over, go through the 3, and repeat for 2 half double crochets. Then we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in the next stitch. Then we're going to stitch 2 half double crochets in this next stitch. All right, then we're going to stitch a single crochet in these last 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and then we'll join to that first single crochet over here, and we're done with the shaping of our apple. Let me move that up so you can see that a little better. Here's our sides. We came down, we made 3 bumps so that it looks like a red delicious or golden delicious apple. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut our yarn, and we're going to bring in the brown or beige or whatever color you want to use to make your stem. Snug that down. And then we're going to chain 5. We're going to slip stitch in the second chain from the hook. There's the first one, so we'll go in the next one, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through the loop on our hook. And then we'll slip stitch in those next 3 stitches. And then we'll join back to our apple in that stitch that we began in. And cut our yarn. Tie that off. There's our apple stem. We're going to turn this over, and I'm going to go ahead and just make a little, it's not really a knot, it's just sort of pulls the stitches in. And I do that before I weave that in because it just helps it stay put. All right, and then we'll come back in later and weave those in. But now we have the apple with the stem. To make that little leaf, we're just going to start with a little bit of a tail because we're going to use that to help attach it to the apple as well as weave that in. So we'll begin with our slip knot. and we're going to chain 8. We're going to place a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So there's one. Here's the second. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops. Then we'll place a half double crochet in the next stitch. So yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through all 3 loops. Then we're going to stitch a double crochet in the next 2. 1 and 2. We'll stitch a half double crochet in the next, a single crochet in the next, and then we're going to slip stitch in that last one. And that's our little leaf. We'll go ahead and cut our yarn, making sure we have a little bit to work with to attach it to our apple. So there's our little leaf. The leaf placement is a little bit up to you. You can have it go this way or however you want. I'm going to put it this way because I like the way the leaf's curling up. And so we have these 2 ends. And so I've gone ahead and threaded one. Doesn't matter which one. I want to put it right at the base of the stem. And I'm just going to put it right through. And one thing I try to do is to go through a stitch, not a hole. Because if you put it through a hole, it doesn't hold as securely as if you put it through a stitch. Alright, so now I've threaded the other end on, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go through right that stitch at the base of my stem. Alright, and then what I like to do is I like to turn it over and do that little, I call it a stay knot. It just keeps it put until I can come back in and weave it in. But I don't want my apple leaf to just be sticking out like that. I want it to stay attached. And so what I'll do is I'll go through some of these back stitches, and of course this is just my preference. Make sure that it doesn't show on the front, but if it does, it's not going to matter because we're going to tack that leaf down. I'm just going to go in and then come back out. And that's just going to help that leaf stay put. It's tacked on there, and then I'll just weave this in behind. So that's going to stay put. All right, and then I'll just take a minute and weave this end in, and that's the apple with the stem and the leaf. Now, if you want to add the little face on there, I'll show you how to do that as well. I've made one of the eyes and I've already attached it to my apple. And I'll show you how to do that real quick. We're going to begin with the slip knot. We're going to chain 3. And we're going to place 6 single crochets in this second chain from the hook. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and there's 1, 2, 3, move that tail out of the way, 4, 5, and 6. Now we have 6 single crochets. We're going to join to that first single crochet with a slip stitch. We're going to cut our yarn, but we're going to leave ourselves about 10 or 12 inches so we can sew it onto our apple. All right, so now we're going to take our needle. We're going to thread the shorter end onto our needle. There we go. We're going to turn this over and close up that hole. Sometimes when you do this method, you'll get a hole and sometimes you won't. So we're just going to go ahead and close that up so our eye is nice and tidy. All right, it's closed up, so I'm just going to weave that in. I can get that in that yarn there. I pulled it pretty tight. There we go. And I'll cut that yarn off. And we'll use this yarn for sewing it in place. All right, but we're going to put that little pupil on our apple first. So I've got a little piece of black yarn here, about 10 or 12 inches. We're going to come up from the bottom through that center, leave ourselves a little bit of a tail, and we're going to make what's called a French knot. We're going to do 3 wraps on our needle, but we're not going to go right back down through the center. We're going to go over to the side and stitch through a stitch, and that is going to keep that pupil from sliding back inside, and it also offsets it just a little bit. All right, so we'll go to the back and we'll just tie a quick knot. And it's okay to put a knot on this one because it's going to be sewn on and it's not going to come undone. All right, so we'll go ahead and clip those off so they're out of the way. And we'll grab our needle, thread this long tail onto our needle. And where I place the eye is in this second row up towards the top, and I put them kind of close together because I want them to be just a little bit silly looking. I think I'm going to turn this one this way. No, I liked it better this way. But it's up to you where you put your eyes. All right, so I'm going to go right in, and where we're going to stitch is around the edge where we have the little loops, or what I like to call braids. They're not braids because braids you need 3. But anyway, I think they kind of look like braids, and so that's why I call them that. And we're just going to go in and out, stitching around the edge of the eye, making sure it's where we want the eye to be laying. And like I said, I want mine to look just a little bit silly and happy. There we go. I'm just making sure I'm going through the stitches because I want my eye to stay put. All right, so my eye's on. I'm going to turn to the back and I'm going to weave that in, making sure I go through a few stitches. And also making sure I stay behind that eye because we don't want any of the white thread to show through around the eye. All right, I'm going to cut that off. And there's our eye. The last thing we need to do is add our smile. So I've got a little bit more black yarn here. And I got it's a little bit longer, about 18 inches, maybe a little more. It doesn't take very much. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this line right here for my smile. So I want to, first of all, make that side stitch that looks like the end of a smile. So I'm going to go through the stitches that cross across that line. There we go. Let's see if we can pull that up some more. There we go. And now I'm just going to go right under there where I stitched, and I'm going to follow this line of stitches over this way. So we'll just go in and out like this. Following that line of stitches. And I'm basically going around each stitch. You can do 2 if you want to. I just did 1. Going around each of the stitches so my smile stays in place. All right, now I want to line it up with this one. So I think I need to go up 1 more. There we go. And then I'll make that stitch that goes across. I'm going through a stitch. And then across to the stitch across. And now my silly apple has a silly smile. So I'm just going to go to the back and we'll weave those in. Just be very careful that when you're weaving in, you stay through the back stitches, because you don't want a little extra piece of yarn showing through to make your smile not look cute. All right, the last thing I need to do is weave this end in, and I'll be all done with my apple. So here are the completed apples. Apples for the teacher. You can make them with a face or without a face. You can make them in solid yarns or variegated yarns. You can turn your leaf this way or this way. So there's lots of different ways that you can make an apple for the teacher.